All right, good evening, folks. We are here at the selection show. We're going to start off this simulation with some fun. I know a lot of people are stuck up inside, not having a ton of fun, missing sports. With this quarantine, it's been hard on a lot of people, but it's truly the better thing for all of the community, all of the United States, and truly all of the world. So, with that, we want to have some fun. We still want to have the experience of March Madness as a whole, and we're going to start it here. It's going to be pretty much a really good fun here. I'm stuck at home as well, a little bit of limited resources, but we're going to get this thing started and underway, and we're going to give you guys a great time this next week, simulating these games, giving you the most in real life action that we can with this simulation, with the experience and what we have here. So let's get this started. So we're going to start off here on, you can see my little setup here we got going, and we're going to start off with this little slideshow I got going to start everything off here. Let's see if this will work. Here we got set up. All right, so March Madness selection show here. We're going to be playing all of these games on NCAA 09 with updated rosters. Me and a couple of some other people I've been working with that I know have been working on rosters to get everything set up. All 68 teams are going to be a part of this tournament. We'll have fully updated rosters down to the T. We're pretty sure we're going to keep at least the starting 5. We could possibly keep up to 7 players as well on the whole team. But we're going to work this. We've been working these last couple days, and we're going to finish up here tonight to get all these rosters set up and give you guys the best fan experience. Now we're going to start off with one thing that everybody wants to know: who's the number 1 seed going into this tournament. We're going to start off with a team that is very non-surprising to you and many fans of this team, and we're going to start off with the Kansas Jayhawks. They're going to be hosting the Midwest region, the number 1 seed in the Midwest region, and currently they're the number 1 seed going into the AP Top 25. Going to what would have been the conference tournaments going into the last couple weeks. And Kansas is led by Udoka Azubuike. And he has been a great part of this team. The 28-3 Jayhawks are on a 16-game win streak. And we're very much so likely to, the front runners in that Big 12 tournament. And here we're going to start off with that, with them winning. To start off with, they're going to be going up against the 16 seed Siena, and a part of that Midwest region. We're going to go to the 8 seed Houston Cougars going up against Marquette. A really good option here. Houston, Marquette, 2 teams that have been working in and out, a little bit on the bubble of possibly being, working out in towards, maybe a first 4 couple teams. But Marquette has really worked in the last few games of the season to get themselves back into a legitimate tournament team and maybe make a run. Going through the rest of the Midwest region, up next we're going to see the 5th-ranked Auburn Tigers going up against Liberty. Number 5-12 matchup. We see a lot of these with your brackets. Looking these for a bracket buster here. Alongside of this, we're going to go up with number 4, Wisconsin, going up against North Texas. Wisconsin ranking 17 in the AP poll this year. They're looking really good, looking team that can make a run in that Midwest region and could possibly, take down Kansas, take down a couple other teams, and it's going to be a really fun sight to see in the Midwest region. Going up with the next set of teams, they're going up against number 6, Iowa, going up against East Tennessee State. Another possible upset here. You see Iowa doing really well in the Big Ten, but against some weaker teams like Nebraska, struggled a little bit, and they've shown that they can be a team that can be an upset by a team like East Tennessee State. East Tennessee State, a team that has worked throughout the season and can very likely be an early bracket buster. A team that is going up against next, number 3, Duke. The Duke Blue Devils, a smaller size team comparatively from the last few years. Haven't shown the dominance that they have in the last few years. With Zion Williamson last year, but they're bringing it back with a number 3 seed, being ranked in top 11 in the AP poll this year. They're showing that they're going to be a strong team, but they have lost to a couple teams such as Wake Forest, lower in their conference that are truly not quad 1 wins. They had 2 quad 2 losses, and that's not what you like to see, especially at a team that is looking to make a big run here. They'll be going up against Belmont, the Belmont Bruins, a small school coming into this tournament, looking to get their seed after the conference tournament win. They're going to be make some noise like that Mercer upset a couple years ago against Duke, and Belmont's going to try to do the same thing. Now for the 7-10, Providence going out of the Big East, going up against Arizona State. A really big matchup here, back and forth here. Providence has shown really good strong appearances up against Creighton, up against other Big East schools, and they've shown that they can be a really good team. Arizona State, on the other hand, working in the Pac-12, a little bit of a weaker schedule comparatively to Providence. But they've been doing a really good job at just being an overall group team and get good wins. Up against, we see, for the 2 seed, we're going up against Kentucky. Kentucky has been a powerhouse in NCAA basketball for years and years and years, and they'll be going up against the Summit League winner in the North Dakota State. In North Dakota State, and it's going to be a great matchup here. Kentucky will likely take the big lead, and they want to give themselves a really good chance at getting to farther into the tournament and give themselves a really good shot and make it into the Final Four. So here we have the Midwest region. This will be sent out again once this show is over. We're going to be sending this out on Westside Wired to give you guys the full experience of sending in brackets, get you guys set up. Make these brackets, send them into either me at Taylor Time, Taylor underscore time at Twitter or on Twitter, or you can send it to me at Taylor778 at westside66.net. You can send those brackets in, fill it out to entirety, and we'll be giving you guys updates throughout as the tournament progresses this next week. We're going to give you guys updates on what brackets are still alive, what brackets still looking perfect, and really big upsets and how that will affect the brackets that have been sent in. All right, so next we're going to go up into the next region, and not too much of a big surprise, and we see Dayton going to lead the East region for this number 1 seed. Dayton, a little bit of a team that plays a very weak schedule comparatively, but they've been shown with the National Player of the Year upon their side. They've been a really good team, a really solid team, and they deserve to be a top 4 team. 29-2 this year. 1 loss against Kansas earlier this year, which is a really big game. They kept it within single digits, and it was a really good game back and forth. And that's why they've shown that even with their weaker schedule in the conference that they're in, they deserve to be in these top 4. So with that, they'll be going up against one of the first 4 components in Boston University and Robert Morris, 2 teams that have not been having great seasons, just barely above 500, barely squeak into this tournament with their conference wins, and it'll likely be a long shot to see a 1-16 upset in those games. As I said, the first 4 games will be set up on Monday, March 30th. Those games, all 4 games, will be streamed on here on Warrior Television as well as Westside Wired to give you guys the best matchups and to start off this tournament as a whole. As the 8-9 seed, we're going to look at Colorado versus Florida, 2 teams that have been working really hard, Pac-12 and SEC teams, and they'll be going up against each other, looking to go up against Dayton just after that. Next, we're going to see another first 4 component in Texas versus Richmond. Texas, a little bit of a bubble team, as well as Richmond going into this tournament, or going a week before this tournament. A lot of bubble in and out, first 4 in, first 4 out, and Texas just squeaks in there with a lot of Big 12 wins earlier this season. They'll be going up against the 5 seed Butler, another big team out of the Big East, and in my opinion, the Big East probably the best all-around conference in the entire NCAA this season. They have a lot of teams that are able to get big runs, and some teams that are going back and forth, big wins, and it's just all around the best conference as a whole. We saw DePaul in that going 11-1 to start off the season in non-conference play, and then just plummeting to the bottom of the conference and the bottom of NCAA as a whole. With that that conference play, not a great seed. We see Butler, a team that has proven themselves, and a team that has proven to possibly make a little bit of an upset run going into this East region. There's going to be Maryland up against Akron. This will be another great matchup. Maryland will likely be able to take this one with somewhat of ease, as they've shown to be a strong force in the ACC this year. And another first four component here. NC State going up against UCLA. They'll be the 11th seed going up against Penn State, a Big Ten team looking to make a big splash here in the East region. For the 3-14 matchup, you're going to see Villanova versus Hofstra. Villanova, another Big East team that just fell short of getting the first seed, got the second seed going into their conference tournament. Again, that conference tournament was canceled. But Villanova, a solid team throughout that can make a really big run. It's really low to see them as a 3 seed, not what a lot of people expected, but with some of their earlier losses, and a 24-7 record, is really hard to be able to get them bumped up to a 2 seed. And with that, the 7-10 matchup, we got West Virginia versus Utah State. West Virginia, another Big 12 team, high-scoring team, high-paced offense team that can go up against a team like Utah State. With the 2-15 matchup, we have Florida State versus Wright State. This one will likely be a somewhat of a blowout. Florida State being a strong team coming into this season as somewhat of a team that hasn't shown that they've been a top 5 team the last couple of years. They've been showing that they're hanging around, but with the new setup there at Florida State, they're going to be the 2 seed, and they've been having a really good chance of making it to the Final Four this year. As we see here, this is the bracket for the East region. All 16 teams set up here with a lot of 2Bs, with the first 4 coming up here on Monday. This will be a great matchup to see who will come out of this East region to go to the Final Four. And next up will be the West region with Gonzaga. Gonzaga will get the 1 seed. They're the 2 overall seed going into the AP Top 25. In the last setup earlier here in March, they're a 31-2 team. Who again, another team who has not gone up against the same schedule that a team like Kansas has, or Baylor has, or Florida State has. But Gonzaga has shown throughout the last few years that they're a strong team to be able to come against adversity and beat teams. Beat teams like BYU, beat teams in their conference like St. Mary's and Pepperdine and other teams like that have shown that they can be somewhat of a little bit of an upset maker in their own. But Gonzaga has been a strong team that has been able to do very well in tournaments and in NCAA tournaments as well. They will be going up against 2 teams that are very small conference teams. They'll be going up against either the winner of Prairie View A&M and North Carolina A&T, 2 really small teams, just being able to squeak in here with their conference wins and be able to give themselves a good shot at just even getting the game played here in this tournament. The 8-9 matchup, we're going to look to see LSU going up against Oklahoma, SEC versus Big 12. 2 really big matchup you like to see with these 2 conferences. Up next, we're going to see another really big, this is my personal possible upset here. We have Michigan going up against Yale. Michigan had a really good start to the season after some shaky things going on, to see what they could possibly be doing, winning their early preseason tournament. But this is one opportunity to where I see a team out of the Ivy League in Yale give a good opportunity to maybe shock some names and shock some critics about how they can do this year. At the 4-13 matchup, we're going to see Oregon going up against New Mexico State. Another really big matchup. Oregon, who at one time could have been a top 10 seed, could have been a 1 or 2 seed, dropped out with a couple losses, especially in their loss late in the season. But they'll be going up against New Mexico State, a team that has been going back and forth. Not a team I see as an upset, but Oregon is going to have a really good opportunity to make a couple rounds in and possibly give themselves a good shot to make either the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. Next up, we're going to see the 6 versus 11 seed BYU going up against Indiana. BYU we saw taking down some big teams earlier this season. That's why they're as high as they are. They've had a really good opportunity, winning games, winning quality games, even as the kind of small school that they are. Indiana surprisingly jumps in here after some weighing back and forth in the Big Ten tournament, going up against Nebraska there. Likely, not a great, a really big win there, but a little bit lower seed in the Big Ten. Skips in here as an 11 seed. But this is another opportunity to where I see an upset. Indiana being a really small, quick team that is able to, get balls to the paint and be able to take a team down like BYU. At the 3 and 14 matchup, we're going to see Seton Hall versus Eastern Washington. Seton Hall, I see as a very big front runner in this game, and a very big front runner to possibly even win this West Division. If you see an early exit from Gonzaga, if you see an early exit from BYU or anybody else, you'd very much so see Seton Hall getting themselves to the Final Four. A strong team that has won big games. They show that they can be a top team in the Big East, which again I see is arguably the best conference in all of basketball this year. Seton Hall, keep your eyes on them as they go throughout this tournament. At the 7 and 10 and 2 and 15, we have Arizona going up against Texas Tech and San Diego State going up against UC Irvine. San Diego State only 2 losses on the year, 30 and 2, running in the Mountain West Conference, and they've been a bubble team back and forth a little bit on whether or not they should deserve a 1 seed. With those 2 losses to Utah State, they've not shown that they deserve to be as good of a team they are, especially with a smaller schedule or a weaker schedule comparatively to these other teams at the top 4. They'll be going against UC Irvine, a team that is not going to have a really big opportunity to go up against a team like San Diego State, but is very much so happy to be here in this tournament. Here we see the West Region tournament here. You can see Gonzaga, San Diego State, Seton Hall, or Oregon all having really good opportunities at possibly making the Final Four. If you see there, the TV game for this region will be Michigan versus Yale. You'll be able to see that on Tuesday, March 31st, and you can watch that game live. Again, I see a very big opportunity there for that to be a possible upset, as Yale could take down number 5 Michigan. As we go into the final setup, we're going to see Baylor getting the final 1 seed in the South region. They've shown a little bit back and forth. They've been able to go up against really good teams such as Baylor. Haven't been able to beat, Baylor has been going up against teams like Kansas. Have not been able to take them down this year, but they've shown that they are a really strong team that can take down most of the top teams in this country. To start off, they're going to be going up against Winthrop, a team that has shown dominance in their conference these last few years, giving themselves a good opportunity to get in the tournament multiple times. But they'll still be the 16th seed, and not very likely to see an upset there. Going up to the 8-9 seed, you see St. Mary's, a team that took down Gonzaga earlier this year, has a lot of quality wins in their conference, going up against Rutgers, a little bit of a smaller Big Ten team this year, a team that has done decently, kind of like an Indiana this year, but is not, I don't see very likely going far in this tournament. Up next, we're going to see a 5-12 opportunity, a really big opportunity for an upset. Stephen F. Austin going up against Ohio State. Stephen F. Austin is a team that has shown, very Cinderella stories coming in the last few years that they've made this tournament. I'll also watch that game to possibly be an opportunity for an upset. At the 4 and 13 seed mark, we're going to see number 4 Louisville going up against Vermont. Louisville, a team out of the ACC that gave teams like Duke and North Carolina and Virginia really big trouble this year. And this is another team that I could see being a little bit of not quite a Cinderella story, but a little bit of a lower seed story to come out of that South region and maybe make some noise here. At the 6-11 and 3 and 14, we're going to see number 6 Virginia out of the ACC going up against number 11 Cincinnati. This will be another really good matchup. To see Cincinnati coming out of the American, a little bit of a smaller team. We've seen Wichita State coming out of the American Athletic the last 2 years. You see Houston coming out of that conference this year. They're all teams that I see a little bit of under the radar comparatively to what you see to most big teams. The conference as a whole has a really big opportunity to make some noise in this tournament. At the 3-14, we're going to see the Big Ten's Michigan State going up against the 14 seed Bradley, going up against a team that is from the Missouri Valley Conference, a team a conference as a whole that is a little bit shrunken down since they lost Wichita State to the American Athletic, as well as Creighton to the Big East. But Bradley is still a team that has shown some promise this year, ended up likely that we projected to win that tournament, taking down Loyola Chicago, a team that had a Cinderella story a couple years ago. And this will be a really good matchup, seeing Michigan State going up against Bradley. Likely to see Michigan State give themselves a really big open early, and maybe make themselves a really big opportunity to win some games and get at least to the Elite Eight. At the 7-10 and 2-15, this will be our last setup here. For this selection show at the 7 seed, you're going to see Illinois going up against USC, two smaller teams in Power 5 conferences. Don't see them going very far, but this will be a really good matchup to start off with. Creighton versus number 15 Little Rock. I know everybody here in Omaha wanted to see Creighton, especially with the success they've had winning the Big East regular season title for the first time in their program's history. It's going to be a really good matchup. Hopefully down the line more throughout this tournament. Creighton going up against Little Rock. Little Rock, not a team that has done much. This is one of their first setups in the tournament, and look to see an early exit for them. Creighton, hopefully led by Marcus Zagorowski. We heard a lot of possibilities with his legs, his knee not doing the greatest for him. He will likely be able to start with Patrick Mahoney and other guys part of this Creighton team. They can do a really good job and maybe make some noise in this tournament. I see Creighton very likely at least getting to the Sweet 16 and possibly maybe the Elite 8. You see a possibility either the Elite 8 most likely. You can see other couple teams in this tournament taking them down, maybe a little bit of an upset. To see Creighton to do some damage up against some of these top teams here in this tournament. Here we see the South region for this March Madness bracket. Baylor going to take the 1 seed to start it off. Creighton going to be our TV game with so many fans that we have around here, loving Creighton, loving the hometown spirit. We're going to give you guys that game to start off, and if they keep winning, we're going to keep showing you those games. So here, that is all we have here. Here to start off this selection show. That is everything we have set up here for this selection show. Games are going to start this Monday, March 30th. We're going to have them live streamed here on NCAA 09, and we're going to start off with the first 4. These first 4 opportunities, teams that are a little bit on the bubble, barely able to get in, or teams that have won their smaller conferences and still wanted the opportunity to play here in this tournament. We're going to see Boston University going up against Robert Morris. That'll be our first game of the day. We're likely going to start that game around 11 a.m. And then we'll be going off to the winner. They'll be going off to the winner. The winner of that game, will be going up against Dayton on the next day. Another 12 opportunity. Number 12 Texas going up against number 12 Richmond. The winner will play Butler. And as well, we'll see NC State versus UCLA. Winner will play Penn State. And we'll finally see, to end off the night, a little bit of a smaller game, but a good, fun matchup going back and forth. We'll see Prairie View A&M going up against North Carolina A&T. Again, I would like to thank all you guys for being a part of this. Just here in a moment, we're going to send out the PDF bracket going on Westside Wired, so you guys can download that bracket, fill it out, send it to us, and we're going to give you guys the update throughout this entire tournament. The bracket closing for when you guys can send them in will likely be 11 a.m. on Monday, just before that first 4 tournament begins. We're going to ask that you guys also put in those first four games for your winners, but we're going to give you guys the best opportunity and best matchups to give you guys a great experience for this March Madness tournament that is going to be simulated on NCAA 09. I know a lot of people wanted to see the actual NCAA tournament, even if it was without little fans. We're going to give you guys a really fun opportunity to get everybody a part of this Westside program as well as other programs to be able to give themselves a part of this this fun time, even with the limited sports exposure that is around this country and the world. With that, again, I'd like to thank you guys here, and have a wonderful night. I'm Jaden Taylor. Have a wonderful night.